What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to go back and revisit a video we made the other day around the recent MOU signing between Ethiopia and Somaliland, which pretty much brings into legitimacy. The trade off was Ethiopia recognizes and will support Somaliland in the international arena. And Somaliland, in return, will give direct access to sea to Ethiopia, the world's most populous landlocked country. One of the conclusions I took away, based off of the global geopolitical landscape, was that this was going to ensure some peace on the Horn a little bit longer. And things are getting heated right now. For those that don't know, the Horn of Africa is a very passionate region. Africa is probably one of the most passionate regions you can cover in Africa. Every country out there has a mindset that they are the center of the world in a good way. They care about that country. They're highly nationalistic. What are they talking about? Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and even somewhat a little bit Djibouti. These are very proud nations in the Horn of Africa. God bless them for that. If the rest of Africa was like that, maybe Africa will be a lot more competitive than it is because the pride is so heavy in the Horn. Now, there's also a downside to that. With that pride, sometimes it gives you wrong rose-colored glasses. It can make one too proud, borderline disillusion, borderline the inability to recognize the writing on the wall. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is determined. I can see this, with some leaders, you can really see it early on. You can see those leaders with a vision. They have a recognition or idea of their people, and then they have the political will to carry it out, right? Know your nation, know the global arena, being able to and know your people. These are all important aspects of the leader. And when you get a leader that can get in office with a vision that knows their countries, understands the geopolitical landscape, and can lead their people. They know the people of their country. They know what they can and can't get away with. You know, magic happens. And the first time I saw this was with the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. I have not seen African leader in some time push through something against the forces of the world. No, nobody else was really backing Ethiopia for that dam. They put that dam on the Blue Nile, which is 80% of the source of the Nile, which over 100 million Arabs are in Egypt is highly dependent on. So Egypt, the center of the Arab world. So Egypt got backing from the U.S. They've always been one of the major beneficiaries of U.S. fundings. As I always say, Egypt, the Suez Canal is the bedrock of, I think, U.S. foreign policy in Europe because U.S. supports Egypt and controls the Suez Canal, keeps extremism low in Egypt. I think that is a major driver of great relationships between Egypt and the U.S. Even though it's not advertised, the fundamentals are there. So Ethiopia was pushed back against Sudan. Ethiopia was able to push back against Egypt that didn't want Ethiopia to put this dam down. And what did Abiy Ahmed do? He put the dam down. And now GERD is operational. So we made videos about that in the past. We saw this coming early on, and we sat back and we said, okay, well, what is Ethiopia's major challenges? The federated union that it is, when you have these federated autonomous nations, it's basically nations within nations. So a strong nation state will have to be able to consolidate that power centrally to act seamlessly. Because if you have a decentralized state, this is why America got into a civil war. If you have a decentralized state, it's impossible to act internationally. So centralization is very important. It's unfortunately you're breaking eggs to make a cake, but a lot of nations is developing, as mentioned, the U.S. is one of them. The North had to bring the South to heel in order for the U.S. to really fulfill itself see the shining sea, which is what the American culture at the time set for itself as a goal, as a continental power. They couldn't do that with the North alone. They needed the North and South because the South could have been used as a puppet state from outside powers to sabotage the North. Same things with Ethiopia. If Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, did not come down on autonomous reasons, if he didn't have a strong hand with the Amharas, if he didn't have a strong hand with the Tigrayans, um, those groups could have subverted his authority. Whether that's right or wrong is I'm not the person that can offer that advice. This is just a fundamental fact of geopolitical history, how these nations operate. So the strong hand domestically, and then you're looking at the growing economic growth rates, you're looking at the growing demographic rate. This nation was not going to put their fate into a small nation like Djibouti, where they receive most of their sea access. Um, this move with Somaliland was going through the back door because it was an option nobody really could see because nobody was really looking at Somaliland. They was out there. It was a little, but all of Somalia was in a fractious state. But what Ethiopia did was they took a piece of the fraction, and this is what Europeans did during colonialism. Yeah, they went to all these nations, whether that's the Americas, Africa, but they saw the fractionalism. They picked a side, invested in that side, and they built out from there. That side gave them a foothold in those land masses, and they were able to build alliances and penetrate and defeat enemies from there. When Cortez conquered the Aztecs, he did that with mostly indigenous tribes of the Americas. The bulk of his troops were not necessarily just Spanish troops. He had a small contingent, but it was a lot of the disgruntled Americans that was already in the Americas that were enemies of the Aztecs, which was allow Cortez to plan, strategize, and sabotage the Aztecs. Right now, crazy protests in the streets. Somalilanders are extremely happy. Somalians are extremely upset and they're in the street. But to me, I'm saying it's too late. You should have been upset in the street like 2 weeks ago or a week ago. The reason why is if Somalia, which is now upset, there's potential talk of conflict, which I don't see where it would come from because Somalia's in no state to impose its will on Somaliland at this point. And that's the true fact. And this is where I'm seeing a picture from. If Somalia was so potent, Somaliland would, potent and cogent, I'll put that phrase, potent and cogent. If Somalia was so potent and cogent, Somaliland would never have existed. The roots of the Horn, as far as Somalia is concerned, yes, the Somali people are a great people on the Horn of Africa. But even to this point, remember, Ogaden is made up of Somalis. The Ogaden region of Ethiopia is made up of Somalis. So Somalia has already been a fractured people. It has already been fractious, I think, through the internal regions and external regions. Who wants a strong, unified African nation on the Horn of Africa leading into the Red Sea? Probably only the Somali people. A lot of people probably depend on Somalia being fractured because they'll be concerned about the militarism, or you see what the Houthis are doing. So imagine if you had two nations that were unified in common front. So I think that's why the Somalia has been fractured in its clan style for so long. It benefits too many people internally and externally at this point. But you're really going to class of civilization because you're going to have Ethiopia or Christian minded Ethiopia beating this Islamic minded Somalia. And of course, a lot of people are upset, but I just think right now, where does Somalia have to go to turn? And they're going to have to unify, and maybe this might unify them as a nation, as a people, to get a desirable different results. But right now, I think Ethiopia, based on the moves they're made under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, they're too strong. They're too connected right now. And what they did was they completely removed Somalia from the chessboard at this point. What Somalia might do is ally with outside partners. You may see an allegiance with Egypt and Somalia in some front. I've seen that Turkey is getting interested in this region. Don't forget, Turkey has been eyeing Africa for weapons markets as well. So it could go either way, but I think had this deal not happened, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed may have took a more militaristic approach in resolving his sea access dilemma. So we'll see. Some people think this is going to bring more peace to the region, and some people believe it's basically turn the region into a powder keg, and it's only a matter of time before it goes up. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.